Hey gang, John Backrelli here with your Lake St. Clair Fishing Report, brought to you by Sportsmen's Direct. It is Wednesday, July 31st, and we're getting to roll right in here to August. And with August comes a lot less fishing traffic out on the lake, and a lot of people starting to think about, kids going back to school and, end of summertime and college and all that good stuff. And it's pretty hot out there too. So usually things get a little bit slower, and they have been a little bit slower. Water temperature at Belle Isle is, I don't know. The darn thing's still broken, and it's been broke now for like 3 weeks. But temperatures that I'm getting from other sources are showing mid to upper 70s out there on the lake, which means it's a pretty warm one this year. Last year, I think our peak temperature was about 75, but I know we're higher than that out there right now, which means that we're right in the middle of summertime. It's going to be interesting to see if it cools down or if it keeps getting warmer. Sometimes we don't hit our peak temps until September out there, but I kind of have a feeling this year it's going to cool off a little bit sooner. And actually, the weather forecast going forward here has got some nice movement in the barometric pressure, as somebody had pointed out to me before, that that last warm snap we had, it was like pretty much blah. There wasn't any movement in the barometer, and they didn't expect fishing to be very good, but that didn't kind of pan out. We still had some good fishing out there, but we do definitely have quite a bit more movement in the barometer over the next week to 10 days, but not anything significant enough that it's going to really make the winds crazy or anything like that. So it looks like from a fisherman's perspective, enough movement to keep the bite going, but not so much movement that I expect to see insane, big blows or anything out there on the lake. However, we do have a significant cool down coming next week, which will be very welcome. Hopefully we'll be able to turn some of that AC units off and open some windows up and get some good night's sleep. But anyways, it's going to be much more comfortable fishing too here going forward very quickly. Shout out to Matt Gennaro for some really cool sturgeon pics, and these pics were taken at night, so they're really neat looking pictures of sturgeon, which is when most of the guys are out there targeting sturgeon, is at night. But we also got some pictures from Robert Ring, who caught a couple of sturgeon from his kayak. He got a little bitty one, and he got a bigger one, and that big one, that just that angle of that picture, that fish literally looks like a shark alongside of the kayak, which is really cool, but it's not a shark. It's a sturgeon. It's just a really neat angle on that fish. But a comment about that little one that he caught, those little ones like that, if you do get one and you're in a kayak, really try to release that fish outside of the kayak, because if you bring him in and lay him across you, you're going to find out that those little spines on them are like razor blades when they're tiny, and they will cut you up in a heartbeat. So the big ones aren't so bad. The edges on those scales, I think they get worn off. They just get more mature and they get more rounded off, and they're not so bad. But those little guys, man, those scales are like little razor blades. So if you've ever handled those little juvenile sturgeon, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was like a sturgeon week, I guess. I mean, sturgeon just opened not too long ago, so a lot of you guys I know are targeting them. But our guy Spencer got out there too, and he got a really big sturgeon, and he got it, I think it was just before dark. So we've been getting a lot of pictures of guys targeting or catching fish before dark, and that's become pretty common now with as much pressure as there is out there with many guys fishing for them. They usually get set up early before nightfall, and a lot of times they'll have one on and landed before it even gets dark. So great fish, Spence. Thanks for all the pictures, guys. Keep them coming. We love getting those pictures. Just definitely not a lot of people out there fishing in this last week. Everybody's been dodging the rain. It's been really hot. People, just generally don't get out that much. But we still have been getting some good reports. Now, for the most part, the perch, even though no pressure is nowhere near what it was a few weeks ago when you guys were just hammering those monsters out there by the St. Clair Light, there are still fish out there by that 26 can and around the St. Clair Light, but there also seems to be a lot of fish that have moved up much closer to the firecracker. So, which would make sense, because with the temperatures heating up, if the bait fish are moving around and they move up in there closer to the mouth of that south channel, that would make sense that those perch and the walleye and everything are going to follow. Also, the other thing that tends to happen, I think, is those fish were out there by the shipping channel, and when it first started out, you guys were not catching that many smallies. But as you noticed towards the end there, right before those fish seemed to move, the number of the smallies being caught went up exponentially. And I think those fish really just head for cover too. And so they're looking for weeds. And some of those fish have moved up. Some of those fish, I'm sure, have moved back over into Canadian water. There's some pretty good weed beds just off of that, near that Canadian borderline over there. There's some pretty good weeds on the American side of that shipping channel that I'm sure some of those fish have taken up residence in. And there's also a lot of fish that have been showing up still down there at the dumping grounds. So, and the other thing that's just recently happened too is we've started to get reports between 9 Mile and the Yacht Club, and that shouldn't surprise anybody as we get in later in the summer and get closer to the fall, because that area down there usually explodes for the perch, and we've gotten some pretty darn good reports down there as well. And for the most part, it's still out pretty deep, 15, 16 feet of water, but it just shows you that there are fish to be had out there for you folks that want to really hunt them down. Just think weeds this time of the year. That's going to be the primary thing. Weeds are going to be cover. And, if you do happen to find some fish out in open water and there aren't any real good cover, those fish are going to be schooled up really tight and they're going to be using each other for cover. But for the most part right now with all the weeds, they're going to be using those weed beds. Lots of smallies being caught out there. Again, mostly 15, 16 feet of water, or up near the channels, by the mouths of the channels, like a lot of the tournament guys have been doing, like up in Anchor Bay, up where the different channels come down. That's definitely going to be some cooler water. There's weeds out there. There's bait fish. There's lots of smaller perch in those areas. But there's also fish down through the mile roads and down by the dumps and lots of different areas. We're getting pretty steady reports of most of our bass fishermen having success, but for the most part, it's out in that 15 to 16 foot range of water. So there are definitely fish out there to be caught. They've definitely schooled up more right now than what they were a few weeks ago. And, pretty decent sized fish. So a lot of guys are having success out there right now. Also, you guys know I follow Joe Bauer, and Joe got some pictures of what or I should say, who I'm going to be assuming is going to be maybe a future Bassmaster. At least that's the way Joe was talking about him on his social media. And so a shout out to Zeke. Zeke the Hammer, is that going to be your nickname, Zeke? Zeke the Hammer. Zeke just hammered some really nice smallies when he was out there with Joe. And not only can he fish, but he's very photogenic too, and that'll take him a long way in this industry. So great job, Zeke. Keep it up, and maybe we'll get you out here on the Fishing Report again another time. Guys like Garrett Samsel are also out there still hammering smallies. And as you guys know, that Garrett, when he's chartering out there, he's going after smallies, wallies, muskies, and sturgeon. So he definitely gets into all the different species out there. And it looks like he's scoring on all of them out there right now. So again, that just proves that there is a lot of fish to be caught out there, regardless of what species you're targeting. One of the secrets to fishing is to, you have to fish where the fish are. So, that's one of the key things. If you're fishing in areas where the fish are not, you're not going to catch fish. It's pretty simple. So you have to really focus on the areas where the fish are concentrated. And right now it's definitely going to be out deeper, and it's going to be with structure, which out here on St. Clair is going to be weeds, because we really don't have a lot more structure other than the weeds. And in the areas that we do have rock structure, you're also going to find the best areas there are going to be the specific locations around rock piles where you also have some weed growth as well. So again, weeds. That's kind of the name of the game. Mike Coleman's been still going out with his kayak, and he's been taking guys out lately, and he's still been scoring on smallies out there as well. Think he's taking a little bit of a break from chasing the muskies in the kayak, but he's been having success too. But I know a lot of times when you think of kayak fishermen, you think of very near shore, but I can tell you Mike's not afraid to get out there into that deeper water as well, although I think he's been focusing more up on that north end right now with that cooler water coming down still out of Lake Huron. So it's still going to be cooler water than what we're going to have, say, in tight to shore down around the mile roads, and that makes a big difference. Also, a shout out to Joey Elliott and his partner Avery Morehouse, who finished second in the state high school bass fishing championships out here on Lake St. Clair, and I think that was just last week. And Joey and Avery now qualify to go on and move on to Oklahoma for the National High School Championship. So great job, guys, and best of luck out there in Oklahoma. Do us proud out there. And I got to say something about the hair, Joey. Man, that hair is just awesome. I love it. But great. You're very photogenic, and I know you work really hard. And I know you were in at the shop right before the event. And if guys want to know what you caught those fish on, I guess they got to come in and see me, because I'm not going to say it out here on YouTube land. So, but come on in and we'll tell you what Joey got those fish on, because I know exactly what he loaded up on before he went out. Shout out to Mike Colombo. Mike is proven too that you can catch big walleyes this time of the year on Lake St. Clair. You got to hunt them down, but when you do hunt them down, you can really get some big catches out here if you hunt them down and then dial them in. And Mike definitely did that last week. I'm not sure exactly where he was, but I know he was Main Lake. So he was probably fishing those fish suspended out there in that deeper water on the Canadian side, would be my guess. And I'll have to confirm that with Mike, but sometimes he can be a little tight-lipped on stuff like that. But we'll see if we can finagle it out of him, or maybe he'll see the video and he can chime in online and tell you guys where he got those fish. But he really did get some nice walleyes out there for midsummer, some real dandies. Jerry Toner is still going out there. You guys know I follow her as well, and she's still been doing the multi-species gig and working those weed beds over. And like I say over and over again, focus on those weeds. You're going to catch smallies, walleye. You're going to catch perch. You're going to catch muskies. They're all going to be in and around those weeds this time of the year. It's really not a big secret. You get out there in that deeper water, find those weed beds, and you're going to find fish. Not every weed bed's going to hold as many fish, so you got to move around. And then you've still got structure on structure within those weed beds, right? You've got inside bends. You've got areas where the weeds are really tall. You've got areas where it kind of tapers off, where you've got those weed beds and they're in conjunction with bottom contour changes, like I was talking about rock piles and things like that. Those are going to be kind of like spots on the spots. So when you're on those weed beds, it behooves you to move around a little bit before you set up shop. And if you can power troll using the electric trolling motor and move around and kind of graph out that weed bed and figure it out, you're going to not only see the fish, but you're going to see why the fish are in different locations on those weed beds. So don't just look at your electronics, see weeds, and then shut down and fish. Move around quietly around those weed beds and kind of scope them out literally and figure out where those fish are. If you're using forward-facing sonar, like a lot of folks are out there now, it makes it much easier to figure all that stuff out. But then again, I know a lot of you folks still don't have a lot of those technologies, and maybe we'll get into that stuff in another video, maybe with some special guests at some point, and talk about it a little bit. But anyways, that's my advice to you for getting out there. We did get a decent satellite image a couple of days ago, okay? And for the most part, with the conditions we've got, the lake looks pretty darn clean. Maybe a little bit of algae bloom activity going on in some localized areas around the lake. But all in all, the lake looks really clean. Great fishing conditions, regardless of the species that you're targeting. So get out there, take advantage of what hopefully will be a little cool down we've got coming at us, and that moving barometer, and hopefully a good fish bite out there on Lake St. Clair. Hey gang, if you like our content, hit the little subscribe button and the bell icon, and you'll be notified as soon as we put out new stuff.